You wake up with a tune you haven't heard in years. It loops all day, cutting into conversations and your concentration. The intuitive story is simple. The song must be catchy, repetitive, or you heard it recently on the radio. That makes sense on the surface. A catchy pop hook plays over and over, so your brain replays it. You blame the song itself. The real mechanism is different. Your brain is not a passive recorder. It actively generates the tune. The phenomenon is called involuntary musical imagery, or INMI. Scientists have studied it for decades. They found that earworms are not just annoying coincidences. They are a product of how your brain fills silent gaps with familiar patterns. The auditory cortex, the part that processes sound, often works even when there is no sound. It rehearses what it knows. The song you woke up with may have been cued by a trigger you never noticed. The sound of your alarm, a word someone said yesterday, even a specific angle of light in the room. Why do some songs get stuck more than others? The common assumption is that simple, repetitive tunes are the worst offenders. Think of nursery rhymes or commercials. But research from the University of London and elsewhere shows a different pattern. The songs that become earworms most often have a distinctive melodic contour or an unexpected rhythmic gap. They are songs that feel almost resolved, but not quite. Your brain anticipates the next note, and when the resolution is delayed or ambiguous, it keeps replaying the passage to get closure. A 2010 study asked participants to report their earworms over several weeks. The top 10 included tracks by Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, and Queen. What they shared was not simplicity, but a syncopated beat and a hook that lands slightly off the expected stress point. A 2013 study from the University of Reading took a different approach. Instead of surveying reported earworms, they induced them in a lab. Participants listened to a set of specially composed tunes, some with a clear resolution and others that ended on an unresolved chord. The unresolved tunes were significantly more likely to be replayed mentally later. This confirms that the brain treats an unresolved pattern as unfinished business. The effect is strong enough that even a single off note in an otherwise simple melody can make it stick for hours. The same principle explains why jingles from commercials often end with a final note that does not quite resolve. The advertiser wants you to keep the tune in your head. They are exploiting your neural prediction system. That explains why you might hum a song you dislike. But what about a song you haven't heard in years? How does a buried memory surface on a random Tuesday morning? Here the flip deepens. Your brain does not store songs in a labeled file cabinet. It encodes them with a web of associations. The room you were in, the smell of rain, the person who played it, the emotion you felt. A single activation of any of those cues can retrieve the whole musical memory. You might be walking down a hallway with the same floor tiles as your childhood school. That triggers a vague feeling, and your brain, trying to make sense of it, pulls up the song that played during recess. You never consciously notice the floor tile. You only notice the tune. There is a limit to this model. Not everyone gets earworms with the same frequency. People who report high rates of INMI also tend to be more open to experience and more prone to daydreaming. Musicians and those with formal training get more earworms, not fewer, because their auditory cortex has stronger neural pathways for music. But there is also a neurological boundary. Some individuals with obsessive-compulsive tendencies experience earworms that last for days, interfering with daily life. The difference is not in the song, but in how the brain's default mode network handles spontaneous thoughts. When that network is hyperactive, the inner jukebox stays on repeat. This has real consequences beyond annoyance. A 2012 study examined how earworms affect performance on cognitive tasks. Participants who reported an earworm while reading were slower and made more comprehension errors. The effect was small but consistent. The reason is that the auditory cortex, when generating the tune, competes for resources with the language processing centers. You are not just distracted. You are literally running two streams of sound, the real one from the page and the imagined one from memory. Driving with an earworm is riskier than driving in silence. The brain's predictive loop steals attention from the road. This is why some people unconsciously hum aloud when trying to concentrate. The vocalization keeps the earworm in the motor system, freeing the auditory cortex for external sounds. Now the practical question, how do you make it stop? The internet is full of advice. Chew gum, listen to the full song, solve a puzzle. Some of it works, but the reason is not what you think. The intuitive story says you need to distract yourself. The real mechanism is more specific. Earworms thrive on unfinished cognitive loops. Your brain craves a sense of completion. Listening to the whole song can provide closure, but only if you pay attention. If the song ends and your mind is still elsewhere, the loop resets. Chewing gum works because it occupies the motor area of your brain that would otherwise rehearse the imagined rhythm. A demanding task, like playing an instrument or even talking to someone, pushes the earworm out because the auditory cortex cannot multitask well between real and imagined sounds. But here is the counterintuitive twist. Trying to suppress the earworm often makes it worse. The white bear effect applies here. Telling yourself not to think of a song activates the same neural pathways that play it. Forced suppression makes the tune more accessible. The best strategy is not to fight it, but to redirect it. Replace the song with a different one that is even more sticky, or convert the melody into a mental hum that has no lyrics. Some researchers suggest a cognitive task like counting backwards in sevens. That demands enough working memory to knock the earworm offline. The flip extends to your daily life. Earworms are not just a glitch. They are a window into how your brain builds predictions. Every second, your auditory cortex is generating expectations about what sound will come next. Music exploits that system, dangling a pattern and then subverting it. When the subversion is just right, your brain keeps the loop running to resolve the uncertainty. The songs that get stuck are the ones that leave the prediction machine slightly unsatisfied. That is why the same song can be an earworm for one person and forgettable for another. Your brain's prediction model is unique. One more layer. Why do earworms often hit in the morning? You wake up with the neural slate relatively clean. Overnight, your brain consolidates memories and clears out interference. The first spontaneous thought that emerges from the default mode network can be a musical fragment that was reactivated during sleep. You do not remember dreaming of the song, but the trace was there. Morning is also when your dopamine baseline is lower. Even mildly rewarding patterns, like a catchy melody, get extra weight. So the song that surfaces at 7 a.m. has a high chance of looping all day. There's a neurological parallel that helps explain why some people cannot shake earworms at all. The basal ganglia, a set of structures deep in the brain, are involved in both motor loops and habit formation. Involuntary musical imagery shares circuitry with the repetitive behaviors seen in Tourette's syndrome and obsessive-compulsive disorder. A 2015 study found that people who report frequent, long-lasting earworms show higher activity in the basal ganglia when listening to music. The same region that keeps a motor tick going keeps the song playing. This does not mean earworms are a disorder. It means the brain's loop-making machinery is on a spectrum. A mild loop is a catchy tune. A strong loop is a compulsion. The difference is only the threshold of activation. Is there a way to predict which song will strike next? Researchers have attempted to model it. They analyzed tens of thousands of reported earworms and found reliable features. A fast tempo, a melodic interval that jumps or skips in an unusual way, and a structure that repeats but with slight variation. Songs with a long instrumental bridge or a fade-out ending are less likely to become earworms because they do not offer a crisp hook. The most potent earworm songs have a moment of tension followed by a release that lasts only a second before the tension returns. Every loop leaves you wanting one more release. You are chasing a ghost. The real implication goes beyond annoyance. Earworms reveal that your brain never stops constructing a model of the world. It generates sound even in silence. It completes patterns that are only half there. This is the same machinery that makes you see faces in clouds or hear words in white noise. The brain is a pattern completer. An earworm is just that machinery operating on music, your brain's favorite structured sound. So the next time you wake up with a tune from a decade ago, do not blame the song. Blame the neural architecture that built a prediction loop and left it hanging. And if you want it gone, do not fight it. Give your auditory cortex something better to complete. Read a poem out loud. Listen to a piece of music with a clear, satisfying ending. Watch a bird hop across the pavement. The earworm is a temporary guest in a house that is always generating its own soundtrack. It will leave when a better pattern arrives. That better pattern could be anything: a spoken sentence, the sound of wind, even a silent breath. The earworm is not a pest. It is a sign that your brain is working exactly as it should.